most meaningful things that I get to do here at Augustana is to co-lead this program to Guatemala. As we think ahead to J-term 2022, this will be the 9th program that I co-lead to Guatemala. So just so excited to get to talk with you about it, what it looks like, and then answer any questions that you might have. So before we dive in, so the program is called Risk and Resilience in Guatemala, so learning about childhood. And that's one of our overarching themes for the program, is really thinking about childhood in a cultural context other than the US, and in this case in Guatemala, and really thinking about it from a variety of different lenses as we think about what impacts kids and families, their development, their growth, their thriving in their environments, and some of the challenges that they face too. So before we dive too much in, can you, I want you to either unmute yourselves or you can put it in the chat. What'd you have for breakfast today? And actually my Zoom skills aren't very good, so I don't know that I can see the chat. What's that, Beth?
So far on the, here, we've got trail mix, oatmeal, Belvita, grapes and coffee, granola bar, Pop-Tart, cereal. I woke up 5 minutes before this, so nothing yet.
Well, I'm gonna make you really hungry then. So mine was oatmeal, although I'm jealous of the Velveeta, whoever is rocking Velveeta for breakfast.
Oh, Belvita, not
Velveeta.
That's
gotcha.
Those breakfast cookies.
Gotcha. How good does this look for breakfast? So here's your traditional Guatemalan breakfast. So beans, scrambled eggs with tomatoes and onions, some fresh cheese and fried plantains. Or if you're more of a pancake person, with some delicious fresh fruit and some yogurt. And isn't it fun to look ahead to having big meals with friends again and getting to share that together? So sorry for the person who just woke up. I'm probably making you really hungry as we talk about this, but wanted to share a little bit about as we think about that time in Guatemala and breakfast there. So let's talk a little bit more about the program. So this is beautiful Lake Atitlan, which is a part of the country, one of my favorite parts of the country, and one that we'll spend a lot of time in on the program. As I said, the focus is on kids and understanding kids' development. Now, we have students who join this program from a variety of different majors. Students who are just generally interested in, especially kids, but also just people in different contexts. And how does culture, how does the environment impact who we are and how we think about the world? So you'll see here some photos from previous years of interacting with kids. These are all kids at Comalapa Seforma School, which is a school based in Indigenous principles. So let me tell you a little bit about the logistics of the program, and then we can look at some more pictures and jump in with questions at any point. So in the program, what you'll do for next fall is in the fall term, you take a 2-credit class on campus. That class is called Childhood in Challenging Circumstances, Psych 405. I'm a counseling psychologist by training, so on faculty in the psychology department and also an associate dean in academic affairs. So in that class, we have a heavy focus on understanding kids' development and some of the challenges they face through a psychological lens. But we also talk about things like, how's the political system impact kids' development? How does history impact kids and families? How do some larger structures? So we talk about things like educational differences, cultural differences in parenting, exposure to violence and trauma, child labor. What's the impact of those? How do kids, what are some of the challenges that kids face in those settings? But also, what are some of the strengths or resilience that we see from those areas? We then spend the second half of the fall term, and I should say this is all on campus in the fall, next fall semester. We then spend the second half of the term really diving into learning about Guatemala more specifically. So some of the history of the country, the current political and cultural landscape, what are some of the major cultural groups there, some of the major values there, And the reason for that is we want you to have a really good foundation before we even travel, so that when we travel, you can learn and experience as much as possible because you've got a foundation to jump off from. So that's on campus next fall that you'd be taking that class. It's also an opportunity for us to get to know one another. So in the program, when we're traveling, we're going to spend a lot of time together, have a ton of fun together, but also talk about a lot of tough issues together. And so it's an opportunity for us to develop community as a class, develop those relationships. Dr. Rose and I always say that we hope you learn a little bit from us. You're going to learn a ton from the people in Guatemala. We also hope you learn a ton from one another in the variety of perspectives that you bring to the class and to the experience. So then in J-term next year, oh, sorry, that's typo. That's J-term 2022, not 2021. So J-term 2022 is when we will travel to Guatemala. You'll take another 2-credit course during J-term. So that's Psych 406. So together, the experience is 4 credits between fall and J-term. You also earn in that Psych 406 class, you earn a G suffix. So as you think about your general education program, that global suffix is a part of the program. So we travel in Guatemala. We're there for 12 days. We're in a variety of different parts in the country, but primarily in the central and the western highlands of Guatemala, meeting, visiting schools and learning from principals and kids there, visiting a variety of different communities, learning from community leaders. I'll show you a bunch of photos in a little bit, from different nonprofit organizations that are working to improve the lives of kids and families in Guatemala in a variety of different ways. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of students who are who've been a part of this program. I'm sure many of you know students who've been a part of this program. As I think about what students study, certainly we have a lot of psych students. We also have a lot of SOC students, a lot of women, gender, and sexuality studies students, a lot of CSD students, biology, pre-health. But we have students, almost any major that you could name on campus, we've had students be a part of this program. And that's one of the things that I love is, again, the diversity of different perspectives and where you're heading in the world, to then think about these issues that we talk about. How does this impact how you want to be in your career and in your life beyond Augustana? And we talk a lot about that together. What are these things that we're learning? What does this mean for who we are as people and how we understand the world? The cost of the experience is $2,900. So if you think about using your Augie Choice funds, that means Augie Choice covers a big chunk of those funds. It's also really important to know that that $2,900 includes your airfare, it includes your housing, it includes all your food in Guatemala. I showed you some pictures of food. We eat really well while we're there. So the only additional costs are any souvenirs that you want to bring home with you. So that $2,900 again is full for the experience. And because it's my favorite place, there's another picture of Lake Atitlan on the bottom. Yeah. Does everybody know where Guatemala is located in the world? Kind of. Here you go. So if we're here, of course, Guatemala borders Mexico to the north and the west, and then Belize and Honduras to the east and the south. So it's about a 5-hour flight. We usually fly through Atlanta, connect in Atlanta, and then another couple hours to Guatemala. We start in Guatemala City. So you'll see here, this is the presidential palace in the background. So we start in the largest city in Guatemala, learning about a lot of kids facing a lot of issues facing kids in urban areas. So schools, urban poverty, kids are agencies serving kids who are homeless. Immigration is certainly an enormous issue that we talk about. And so agencies that are serving kids who are migrating to the US or who have been returned from the US and are reintegrating into life back into Guatemala. Visit a lot of schools, and so you'll see this is one of the schools that we visit. This is the Seforma school I mentioned earlier. This is a school built in indigenous Mayan principles. So in Guatemala, a official language is Spanish. I should say you don't have to be a Spanish speaker to travel. We always have an interpreter with us in all places. If you speak Spanish, that's a bonus. You'll have all sorts of opportunities to practice that. And we have a lot of students who study Spanish who travel with us, or who are heritage speakers of Spanish who travel. So that's a bonus, but you don't have to speak Spanish. We'll, before we travel in that fall class, brush up on some basic Spanish skills. So you've got some of those communications. But we'll also visit areas. We're actually in 5 different language groups in terms of indigenous language groups in the country while we're traveling. Kachikal, Sutihil, Quiche. Oh goodness. I'll think of those later. I apologize. I'm at a loss right now. But a variety of different, Mom is another one, language groups there. So this is a school based in Kachikal, Indigenous Principles, and is working to try and save the Kachikal language, which is a dying language, unfortunately, in Guatemala. So they're doing incredible work there that we get to learn about. The picture on the bottom here is a picture of a school actually near the lake, and this is a special education school, so serving kids with disabilities. And they also have a program to provide employment and work for adults with disabilities. And so we talk a lot about the system in Guatemala and really what is a lack of a system to serve kids with disabilities, and the amazing work that this school is doing to not only serve the kids in their education, but also work within the community to reduce stigma around kids with disabilities in some really powerful ways. Just a variety of different photos here. When we're in country, a typical day is for us to get up, have a great breakfast together, and then we usually meet with at least 2 different organizations or community groups and learn about the work, learn about how they're serving kids and families, learn about some of the challenges that they're facing, learn about how they're achieving what they're achieving, and often talk a lot about where partnership might happen. So what do they want us to know? How can we share this and support their work as we go back to the States? So you'll see some presentations here. Some are in rooms, some are in a work area. This is the work program for the adults with disabilities at ADISA. This is a group that serves Mayan women in a variety of different communities and provides empowerment workshops. They also do nutrition workshops and different agricultural workshops. Because you on this program are a part of Augie Relationships. So I mentioned this is a program that goes every year. This will be the 9th time that I've gone next year, but it will be the 13th time that Augustana students have gone as part of this program. And so it's a part of a long legacy of relationships. And so the communities, well, they won't know you, they'll get to meet you next year. They know Augustana students and feel strong connections. And so we spend a lot of time building those relationships and really learning with and learning from. So you'll see this is a community called Tesate that we visit every year and learn a lot from their women's group and the work that they're doing to support education for their kids. And just time to hang out and have fun too. Again, similar, this is another community. I always love to show these pictures because I think these are the most beautiful Augustana classrooms ever. So every night after we have those meetings, usually have a little bit of free time, sometimes to explore, sometimes to journal or decompress. But every night we have reflection as a time to, as a class, talk about connections between our fall class and what we experienced in the country, to make connections between your other classes or what you want to do or your internship experiences. That nightly reflection is such an important part of what we do. So you'll see here is reflecting, overlooking the lake. This is a volcano, an inactive volcano in the background. You'll see this is in our hotel rooftop in Antigua. This is actually, can you see my cursor as I'm pointing? Okay, so this is San Pedro volcano that the sun is setting over in the distance. Sorry, not San Pedro, Fuego volcano. Fuego is often puffing when we're there, so you can see little puffs coming out of the volcano, which is pretty incredible to see. We're always safe, so you don't have to worry about that. Those are far off in the distance. Again, so just some more pictures of students in the past. In our downtime, you also have some time in certain places to explore marketplaces. So this is one of the markets in Chichicastenango. This, I always wish that there was a smell-o-vision so you could smell the onions and the tomatoes of this fresh vegetable market, but to really try and take in the experience and learn through presentations, learn through interacting with people, through developing relationships, but also from walking around and having the experiences that you'll have. We talk a lot about in this class that this is an opportunity where we want to experience together life outside of what our comfort zones might be. And each of our comfort zones are different based on our own life experiences. But we talk a lot about taking those risks to step outside of our comfort zone, to learn from people who have potentially very different life experiences and have incredible things for us to learn from. So we talk a lot about that when we're in our comfort zone, that's not often where we learn and grow. It's when we step outside of our comfort zone that we'll really have opportunities to grow and change. And it's where the magic happens. So one of the things, again, that we talk a lot about is how to make that magic happen and how to, as a group together, step outside that comfort zone to experience life beyond Augustana and the US. Just one last plug, as you think about Augie Choice, that is, if you're thinking about using Augie Choice, a big way to help fund this experience for you. So let me end with one more picture of the lake and invite your questions. What are you thinking about? What are you curious to learn more about as it relates to the Guatemala Study Abroad program?
Good morning.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, I had a couple questions about the application process.
Great.
So first of all, how many people are typically accepted for this program?
Yeah, we typically take 20 students and we land on that 20 number about every year. And the reason we take 20 is that we travel around in a bus and that's about what we can fit in the bus comfortably. And so that 20 number is really where we land at.
Okay, and is there like a number of students that usually apply? I guess like I'm curious how many of those students that apply usually get part of those 20?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say that in this program, we've been fortunate that there's been across the years a lot of interest in the program, which has been really exciting to just have that interest. So, but we do usually have some movement. So even for students who might not get in right away, who are on the wait list, sometimes some students aren't been able to travel, and so other students slide in. It's hard to know exactly. One of the big changes is certainly the shift to semesters. We used to offer this on a trimester program. So I can't tell you exactly what the interest is now because of in the J-term, it just has shifted things around a little bit. But if you're excited about the program, would say apply. Even if you're not accepted right away, I'd be really hopeful that some space would open up.
Okay, and then I just had one more question. So then for the application process, I know applications open November 1st, and then they're open through, I think, around February. So is it if you apply early, it's like a first come, first serve, or is it more of if you apply, are they all evaluated at the end of the process?
Beth, can I ask you to take that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in the chat bar, I will put in the website. So applications will open on November 1st, and the application process is super easy on our Studio Abroad website. in order to validate your application, you'll need to submit a $300 fee. $100 is a non-refundable application fee, and then a $200 refundable up to a certain point deposit. And so our first deadline will be the last Friday in February. I can't think of that date right off the top of my head, but so you've got plenty of time to get your applications in if you're excited. In that first group, we have a ranking system based on basically your year of school when you travel. So, you know, we try to give seniors preference with a higher GPA over, you know, maybe a sophomore with a lower GPA. So we take those things into consideration. And then after that initial time frame, if there's still openings, it will be on a first come, first serve basis. And the program directors, they always have some input into those decisions as well, but that's basically how it works. So if you're excited about it and you want to go, you know, I would get your application in soon. It's a very simple process. Basically, it's the $300 fee, and then I will type the website into the chat feature here now. Any other questions? Yeah, you're welcome.
What other questions do you all have?
Hi, so I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you travel, like, would that correspond pretty well with like the typical like J-term dates, or is it like any like shift within that like time frame?
Yeah, great question. So we travel for 12 days and J-term is 17 days. Don't quote me on that, but it's J-term is a little bit longer. So we always travel within that J-term window. We usually leave the second week of J-term. And the reason that we do that is that the school year in Guatemala runs from January to October. And so we try and push a little bit later so that we're not visiting our school partners that first week of classes for them, rather we're coming the second week. So that does give you a little bit more time in that holiday break before we leave to, you know, make sure you're packed up, make sure you're well rested. This is a experience that we're doing a lot. And so we talk a lot about as a class, being healthy, being well rested before we travel, because we are on the go while we're there. But we are back then just before J-term ends. And so you do have a couple days before J-term officially ends, and then that break between J-term and spring semester starting. So a little bit of time to decompress, to share your stories with your family members, and come back to campus. We do fly in and out of Chicago. So we fly as a group. I mentioned that in the $2,900, that includes all the airfare. And we do fly as a group in and out of Chicago.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. What else are you wondering about?
Lauren had a question. She said, what is the housing like?
Great question. So we stay in hotels while we're there, with the exception of one night. So please don't let me forget to tell you about the one night, but I'll tell you about the hotels first. So we stay in hotels that we request every year. They're hotels that we've stayed in many times, that we select because they're comfortable, they're in good locations, and we get good feedback from the students about them. Actually, the picture, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
This picture is taken from the grounds of my favorite hotel. So you just walk back through gardens back here to the hotel. It's just this beautiful place to be. The rooms, you're always staying with a roommate in the hotel rooms. One of the things that classes in the past have decided to do is that every time we move a hotel, is they often say, we want to switch up roommates. And the reason they decide to do that is so they get to know other people in the class. to develop different relationships. And so that's always something that we talk about as a class, and something that I've really appreciated about what groups do. So we stay in 4 different hotels while we're there. And again, places that are all very comfortable. The vast majority of them have double rooms, but there are a couple places that might have triple rooms too. The exception to that is last year, and we're planning this again this year. Last year we did a homestay with a group in just outside of Antigua. And this group is a group that we visited every year since I've been a part of the program. It's a group of women, and they have a weaving cooperative. They were all displaced. Guatemala had a 36-year civil war. And all of these women were displaced from their home communities to a town called Chimaltenango due to violence from the war. And then they found each other in Chimaltenango and sort of created this support group through this weaving cooperative. And so we visit them and hear about their stories, learn about the work that they're doing. And every year they've invited us to stay with them. And we've kind of tried to balance, are we a burden if we stay? There's a lot of us. And they say every year, we'd really like you to stay. And so we did accept their invitation last year. And it was just so wonderful to get to spend more time with them. So we divided across, I think there were 5 or 6 different homes that we stayed in, and so got to spend the evening in their homes with their families, having dinner together, and then breakfast the next morning. And a lot of the students last year said that of their top 3 experiences in country, that was in the top 3 for them, last year. So that's something we're planning on doing again this year, and I would anticipate something that we would do again next year. That's at the end of the trip. So it's our 3rd to last evening is in Chimaltenango with the women, of course, on de la Mujer. And so it's after you've had an opportunity to spend time in the country and hopefully feel more and more comfortable that we do that homestay. And I want to share that because I think that's just important to know, that we're not saying, let's do that right away, but it's more at the end of the time there. And hopefully also an opportunity, if you don't speak Spanish, that you can build some of those skills. We, in this last year, made sure that the groups had at least one Spanish speaker in them. So again, you always had a translator with you.
Great. Another question, does the class relate to a psychology major or minor?
Yeah, it does contribute to both a psychology major or minor. So if that's in your program of study, that absolutely applies for you. It's a 400 level or 2 400 level classes. So 4 credits of upper division psychology credit. So yes, if that's in your area, that applies for you. And again, if you're not a psych major or minor, it does have that G suffix. And so it does contribute to your gen ed program.
Great, thank you. All right, we're about at the end of our time. Are there any final questions? Dr. Schultz? All right, well, thank you. This was really informative. I'm ready to go. Do you need an assistant?
Absolutely, the more the merrier. Come along. Yeah.
Great. All right.
Other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Love to hear your questions, talk through individual situations, however I can be helpful. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Or as you're talking with family members or loved ones and they have questions about the program, we often talk and answer those questions too for loved ones that might be a part of your decision-making process.
Great. And I will just add, keep an eye out for applications to open November 1st in the Studio Abroad site. Also, if you're interested in studying abroad and you're not exactly sure what you want to do or you need some help navigating that whole process, Pedro and I in IOP are happy to meet with you virtually, and we're taking appointments through Handshake. You can set that up through Handshake. So thank you, Jessica. Thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thanks all. Have a great day.